Welcome, everybody. This is our great episode. This is a Sunday, nothing to what we normally do, but we've got a great topic today. We are going to be discussing Star Trek Strange New Worlds. And boy, do we got a great cast bringing on to talk with us today. First of all, let's just start bringing them on. We are going to bring on Brian Blevins. He's been returning to the show. He's been on multiple times. And he's obviously a great fan of Star Trek role-playing stuff. Brian, welcome. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thanks. I'm one of the co-hosts of the Pop XP with Billy Tucci and Niall Scala. Also, you guys have been on the show multiple times dealing with crowdfunding comics. Huge nerd in all things pop culture. I like to consider myself a pretty high-end pop culture expert, and I just love talking about this and Saturday morning cartoons. So yeah,
excellent.
I'm excited.
All right, next, another returning guest to the show, Mr. Joseph Bernardo. Welcome.
Hi, I'm 23. No, actually, a 45-year-old Trekkie who just loves Star Trek, high fantasy, comic books. I'm now going to be an author, and I love comic books and role-playing games and all things pop culture.
Nice.
Excellent. And guys, we have a brand new person coming to the show. He was the curator for the Jeppe Museum in Baltimore, Maryland. Love that museum, and also sounds like a big nerd with lots of opinions on Star Trek. Let's welcome to the stream, Michael Solof.
Permission to be aboard, Captain Turner. Hi, guys.
What's up?
I'm living in Mexico now. As Dennis said, I was the curator of Jeppe's Entertainment Museum for about 5 years. Loved it. Went to one of the, when I was 63, 73. About 10 years old, I went to one of the very, very first Star Trek conventions and got to meet all the cast. So I have been a huge Star Trek fan since I was a wee lad, as Scotty would say. And thank you so much for inviting me, and I'm really looking forward to today.
Nice. All right. Yes. Well, I'm looking forward to it as well. We finished it off. We've had some high points and low points in my household this season on it. And I know many of us have a lot of strong opinions on it. So I guess first things first, we kind of need to get the baseline of where we thought. I kind of know where some of us stand, but, for the audience, tell me, we'll start with Brian and we'll just kind of go clockwise. Season 1 of Strange New Worlds, did you like it, and what were your expectations coming in?
Well, to be honest with you, I watched Discovery, which I thought Discovery was decent when it first started, and they pulled out all the stops. They jumped all the sharks during the very first season. I was like, I don't know where they're going to go from here. And I ended up just not liking that series, and I was really excited about Picard. And I watched Picard, and I was like, oh, my God, this is horrible, in my opinion. So then, when I heard they were doing this Strange New Worlds with Pike from, that we got to see in one of the other shows, I was like, all right, well, I'll go ahead and give it a chance. And, man, I was, I went in already, thinking that it was going to be horrible. But, man, it blew me away. I loved almost the entire season, except for the story time fantasy episode, which I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one that didn't like that episode. But other than that, man, I thought the pacing was great. I loved the cast of characters. At the beginning, I thought it was very women strong. Like there was too many women characters on there. But kind of find out I was just wrong. It really does work. I thought the dynamic ended up working, and yeah, man, I love season 1 and couldn't wait for season 2, and then I got to see season 2, man, and we're going to discuss how I feel about that here in a little bit. But yeah, I love the series so far.
All right, Joe.
Well, I wasn't a fan of Discovery. Not even, I don't consider that Star Trek. And then when I found out they were going to put an Enterprise with Pike and Spock on there, then I was even more upset because Spock came on with a beard, and it wasn't like I was thinking, oh, this is going to be a great Star Trek, and I'm like, okay, this is even worse. But the way that Anson Mount came on as Pike, he really captured it. And Eden Peck as Spock was really good, and even with the beard and everything, and I was like, okay, if they give this a chance, it could be. But then I heard they were doing Strange New Worlds, just like you, and I was like, okay. I saw Picard the first 2 seasons, and I was like, oh, this is just going to be terrible Trek. And then I saw Strange New Worlds, and I was like blown away because it recaptured what made the first original Trek so good. The episodic, per episode vision that they had, and the way that Captain Pike was kind of felt really good. It fit the way it was. So I was really excited. And then I loved the way that season 1 ended. And so I was excited for season 2. And so I'm kind of up and down about some of the episodes, but I really still like season 2. And I think they're going to come through with a good amount of good Trek again.
All right. Michael.
I most of the time have a pretty open mind when they announce new series. I don't go, oh no, this is going to be terrible kind of thing. Discovery, I enjoyed the first season. It kind of meandered from there on. Picard came and went, although the 3rd season I thought was brilliant, and so many homages to the fans, referring back to the old stuff. It just, every episode I was just enjoying and laughing. And when it came to Strange New Worlds, I was just happy that they went back to pretty much episodic episodes. Everything's pretty much, closed in with a wraparound, for a continuing story. But I love the way that they're doing it. The first season, I enjoyed. I'm definitely enjoying the second season so much more. Although, truthfully, as Brian said, that fairy tale episode, truthfully, in my opinion, the single most horrible, rotten, crappy, terrible. Should I tell you how I really feel?
I think you should tell us how you really feel about it.
What other adjectives are you going to add to that one?
Not only in this Star Trek, but in the entire Star Trek. I can't think of anything that made me want to.
It is the Last Jedi of Star Trek Strange New World episodes.
Oh my God. Well, how do I top that? So I'm kind of like Michael. I go into every single new series, except I go in with hope and optimism. And, Discovery came out, and my hope and optimism, the moment the Klingons showed up in the first scene, I went, oh crap. It's our world again. I'm like, no. Okay. It's Dallas. Dream sequence. The answer was no. It really was that bad. I'm like, okay, they're going to fix season 2 because they got great cast. Nope. That it just was a steaming pile. And then to find out that it was an upset child that was infused with dilithium crystals, and they basically made us into a gas shortage for all these episodes in the future. I'm done. Okay, Discovery, throw out. Picard. Oh my God, I love Picard. Too bad Picard never showed up until season 3. I absolutely hated the first 2 seasons. I was like, wow. I got 3rd graders that could write better science fiction. And then, season 3 came out, and I was like, hey, season 3, member berries. At least they had somebody who watched Star Trek and understood Star Trek to give us a coherent, member berry filled season. My heart grew 3 sizes. The Grinch was no longer here. Strange New Worlds comes out. And season 1 was a bit of a mixed bag, but it's what I felt was like the original show. Sometimes the original Star Trek from, the first 79 episodes, they were always hit or miss, but they were always at least tried to be good sci-fi. They were written by some of the great sci-fi minds of the time, and they were here and there. I was like, oh my God, some of the great ones. Doomsday Machine. I mean, love it. City on the Edge of Forever. Oh, I mean, it's masterpieces. And then you got other ones like, Spock's brain. Oh, yeah, okay. There's the hippies took over the ship. Oh, okay. Yeah, let's do that. It's a mixed bag, but everything was self-contained. If it was great or if it was terrible, you didn't care, because next week you could either get something great or terrible that had nothing to do with the previous ones. I loved it. Season 1 of Strange New Worlds was like that, in my opinion. It was pretty decent. It built up some stuff. I agree with you, Brian. I think it was a little female happy, and it went a little over the top, and they introduced certain things like Leanne's lineage didn't need to happen and stuff. But overall, I was like, it's not bad. I love the ship. I love that Captain Pike. His quarters are so big now that he's got a fire pit and everybody can come in and roast. But there's some good things. So anyway, I had a lot of hope for season 2.
I have something I want to ask you guys, since we brought up Discovery and everybody hated it. So the guy Ethan Peck who plays Spock, like in season 2 of Discovery, like I hated him. I thought he was a horrible actor, and then like he comes into Strange New Worlds and he's incredible. Like, did you guys get that same feeling? Do you think that like maybe it was the writing for Discovery 2 that just made him not really even likable, and then he comes in and now like you love every scene that he's in? Well,
I'll take the first salvo at that. I hated him when he first came on Discovery. The bearded Spock. I'm like, what is this? Is this the Mirror Mirror universe Spock coming in over here? I was just like, what the heck is this? But by the time he finishes his run as Spock on that, I could tell he was starting to embrace the role. I wonder if he just was like, oh gosh, I got to follow up Leonard Nimoy, and I got to follow up the guy from the Kelvin universe. And all of a sudden, by the end of his run on Discovery as Spock, he seemed to embrace it more. And I was like,
he was just finding himself. You think he was just
I think he could have been finding himself as it, but I was just like, he's finally embracing the role. And I mean, Pike was so strong in that series.
That's right.
That you were like, oh my gosh, this is like, you can see the captain before Kirk on this one. So I think that when he was in that role, I think he finally embraced it by the end of it. But that's why I could see hope when he was cast as Spock in Strange New Worlds.
They were so different to me. It was like, I mean, honestly, and I'm going to sound stupid at this, but I didn't think it was the same actor. It was that much of a different thing.
Dude, agreed.
Once he shaved the beard, I was like, who's this guy? But and he's been growing. He's been growing on me. Although emotional Spock, I don't know. It makes me wonder how eventually they're going to hook it back, if they are going to hook it back into the original series of straight like Spock. Just makes me wonder.
Yeah, it is two different actings. Now, Ethan Peck as an actor is a great actor. He is. And I was like, oh, that's an interesting choice. I bet he could do something with that. And when he got on there, I sat there and scratched my head, especially when all the holograms and stuff came up on the Discovery, which was, way before that they even had regular view screens. But hey, we'll retcon that in. And there's Ethan Peck walking in there, and I'm just like, oh my God, you're awful. The character's awful. And I was like, oh, I get it. Hey, Jimmy, you just got back from kindergarten? we need you to write an episode for Discovery here. Okay, I like Spock, and he wrote up and down in crayon and handed it in, and that was what he got to work with. He's a great actor, but the material they gave him was absolute garbage. And now this one comes in, season 1. The reason I had a lot of hope for this show was Anson Mount and Ethan Peck are fantastic actors. And whenever they're on the screen, they command the presence. Rebecca Romijn, surprisingly, I love as number 1. You know, and seriously, I think I like every single character that they cast for this. The problem is it really is the writing. Season 1 gave us the hope of Ethan Peck. There is Spock and there is Pike, and we're going to get some of those things. Number 1 is good, and we're going to get those main 3 characters. That's what my expectation was going into season 2. And everything about those characters is great. Roll in season 2, and Anson Mount's hardly in any of the episodes. He's just a byproduct of his own show, really. Mr. Spock is front and center, and I think they totally miswrote that, but we'll get into that one in a little while. So I think they're great actors. They're hit on some of the stuff for this season. Like I said, I think I'm going to be the minority.
Yeah, no, I season 1 was okay, but I didn't love it. But I love that they're giving each character almost their own episode and really doing some wonderful character building. And the acting, I think, has really stepped up. Or maybe it's the writing with the acting. I guess you've got to give credit to both for season 2. I've enjoyed 90% of season 2, where I only really enjoyed, and I liked season 1, but I only loved a couple episodes. I'm loving a lot more episodes of season 2.
Okay. I guess that'll
Dennis is giving me a look like, yeah, okay, right.
Yeah, like I said, I'm going to be the minority in this group. I already know it. There were a few episodes this season I really liked, but overall, I super disappointed. I
Really?
mean, yes, and the very first one. We'll start with the very first episode, and then we really do need to talk about. We'll get into our favorite episode and our least favorite. But the very first one, oh no. Lieutenant Singh is somewhere else, and she said it a coded transmission. Spock goes, I think we'll have to break all the Starfleet regulations and go rescue her, even though we're not allowed to do so, and do it. Spock would never do that. That is not Spock. The farthest he ever stepped out from any of his roles was in Star Trek II, when days instead of hours, weeks instead of days, where he stretched the truth. My wife stood up and started yelling at the TV screen. Spock wouldn't do that. Yep, kind of agree. Disagree?
Well, why was episode 2 not episode 1? Like the way they left over the season.
The court martial, you mean?
Yeah. Like I had no idea why that happened. Like, why was that not the deal? And also, like, at the end of season 1, spoiler alert, everybody, they had a death of their engineer in like one of the coolest deaths I think that there was, right? Like, and they never, like, they didn't acknowledge that at all. It's like he's dead. Okay, they didn't bring anything up. Now, granted, we get some stuff later on in the season, but not so much as to kind of remember how big of a part this guy played in season 1.
And there's a really strange jump too, because isn't Uhura a cadet in the first season, and then in the second season she's a full member?
Yep.
So there's a weird like time jump and then they finally get an engineer in the second season by, I forget which episode. And by the way, I hate that character. I hate that character.
I call her Simka, Ladka's wife. I mean, that's all I can see when Carol's on. It's like, they hired Simca.
I mean, I'm like, how could you have her as your engineer? It's like, oh my gosh, no. And the way she talks, I just want to.
Well, that's her, Carol Katie. That's her voice. I mean, that's definitely her. Like, I keep remembering Scrooged. Or Scrooge, you remember with Bill Murray? Like that's like I keep seeing her as the little, the Tinkerbell ghost or whatever, that just comes in and whacks him, Like
I wondered when she was gonna do that to Pike, like come up and
yeah.
Well, here's the thing. Hemmer was a great engineer, the blind guy from the first season.
Yeah.
I was so sad to see that because he was really one of the highlights. And I was like, oh, well, I know they can't bring on Scotty yet because he doesn't take into the Enterprise. So who are they going to replace him with? It can't be her. So I wonder who they're going to. Oh, Carol, that makes more sense. Why not?
Yeah, they just create somebody out of nowhere. Like there's not enough characters already in lore of Star Trek. They're like, let's make somebody.
I was surprised they didn't give a LaForge all of a sudden right there.
Yeah.
That was his great grand son who was the original Enterprise. But anyway, I digress.
Do you think they're going to kick her out now and bring in Scotty?
Well, let's not talk about that yet.
Yeah. She might get eaten. That's all I'm saying. She might get eaten.
Corn food. Okay.
I thought it was a very weird start of the season. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's go ahead and start with breaking the law.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so before we dig into that, what was your favorite episode of the season? And I'll say, if anybody does say the musical, this broadcast is ending immediately.
Well, I mean, the musical episode was really good, but I mean, my favorite episode had to be the Cloak of War episode. I mean, had to be. I mean, like, I think that was quite possibly one of the best episodes that they've done.
Okay.
I have to say I agree with them. I agree. I love the musical episode. It actually fit into the sci-fi that they were broadcasting through. They were talking about there. But I have to say that my favorite episode was the finale.
Really?
Finale. The reason I love the finale is because it added to the lore of everything. Of the Gorn, and it actually does it in a way that it doesn't take away from the episode where Kirk is in the original series. Because the funny thing is, in the original series, Kirk is the only one to say he's never seen a Gorn. Everybody else doesn't say anything. Spock, I watched it after the finale. He says, Spock's just talking about how they've crossed they may have crossed a border, but Kirk is the only one who says he hasn't seen a Gorn. So they actually stuck to the continuity of that episode. So it's kind of weird because I went back and watched. I'm like, no one ever says that they have never had interaction with the Gorn. It was just Kirk.
And as for me, favorite episode, I can't say favorite, but I could say most enjoyable. I'm sorry, I admire the balls it took to do a musical Star Trek episode. I admire the songs that they came up with were very catchy. I admire the ability to use technical lingo in those songs and keep it Star Trek. And it was just a lot of fun. Maybe weird, maybe out of place, but enjoyable nonetheless. Whereas the fairy tale episode, I already covered that.
Yeah.
And as for favorite episode, I'm a sucker for time travel. So I really I'm really enjoying what they're doing with Kirk. I didn't like him at first in the first season, but the more that we interact with Kirk, I'm really digging that, and I thought that was a fun episode where they go back to Vermont and Toronto and all that.
Interesting. I hate to agree with anybody, but although the ending was a bit shock, I think Under the Cloak of War probably was my favorite, not just because of special effects. We get to see a side of the Doctor we didn't really realize, and then you find out the twist at the end, that he's the butcher, and I was like, okay, I kind of like where that went.
Yeah, look at the chill bumps on my arm. Like man, it was incredible. Like when he was talking and he's like, so which one, like when he was fighting with him and doing the, spoiler alert, obviously, when he was doing the, the training and stuff with him, he's like, which one fought you the hardest? Like which one, like he was trying to get him, like, I mean, he's giving him every opportunity to break and hear what he said. And he's like, this guy fought the hardest or whatever it is. And, when he's like, yeah, you know what? He did fight the hardest. He's the one that kept me from killing you that day. It's just like, I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
It was a great episode.
I was going to say that was probably my favorite. The closest one to was, and I'm not a Lower Deck fan. I the humor in that's just too sophomoric, but they did a really fun job of integrating the two and bringing them together. So that was one of those off kind of, fun ones. It's just, you got that really weird fun one in these old scientists where, oh, look at them come across through that. Then you get this really hard hitting Under the Cloak of War. And then we get the musical, and it's just like, I mean, this roller coaster was just going, but
imagine if they had done the animated one, and then the characters came over, and they weren't real life; they were animated, and it became like a Roger Rabbit episode. That would have been cool.
I tell you what, like
both those actors really embodied those roles. I'm not a Lower Decks fan, but and I don't like the series, but when I saw them come over and how they did it, even like they animated the intro,
that was beautiful.
And they took them at the end. They actually had the Strange New World cast in that. I'm not a fan of that animation, that Rick and Morty type animation, big eyes, but they even did that. It was just a well composed episode to show like between the two. And
Jack Quaid was great.
Oh,
he really was
fantastic.
Incredible.
And I liked it. I mean, it really fit. The funniest thing is, I thought, is that they mentioned the only episode of Star Trek the Animated Series that was canon with the original series, which is the one where Spock goes back in time and his slot is. And it's funny, they mentioned that with an episode where they're having interaction with animation.
Yes.
Hey, weird question, because I'm not a big Lower Decks fan. Were the actors that portrayed them the same actors that do the voices?
Yes.
Oh, that's cool.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. It was great. That's why I had a conversation with Solof when that episode ended up happening, because they aired it out of sync for San Diego Comic-Con. They aired it at Comic-Con so you could watch it, and so like I acquired it. I acquired it because I did not get a chance to watch it. So I put it on. I was really excited about it. So I started watching it. Didn't read what it was about or anything. And like Lower Decks came up, and I was like, oh. I was like, I must have acquired the wrong one. So I deleted it, and then I went and got another one. And then I watched it. And I was like, man, like people are trolling me. Like, this message. So I deleted that one, and then I acquired a third one. And that's when I was like, oh, well, maybe I need to let this play out a little bit. And then that's when I saw that it was that was the theme of the episode. But again, I think that I think Under the Cloak of War by far was one of the best episodes of the season. I really, really enjoyed. I would say the musical episode was probably my second favorite. And then I liked the Lower Decks episode probably was my third favorite, only because of what it touched back on. And I don't want to say I didn't like the season finale. I did. I like how they keep one-upping it, because when they had the season finale of last season, they just showed like the kid Gorn. You know what I'm saying? That's all you got to see in that season, and then finally they they ramped it up. Say what?
Not last season's finale. That's the one they did that is attached to Balance of Terror. Last season's finale was where they attached to Balance of Terror. Remember, they go. Pike comes in his ready room, and he sees himself. Well, no, he goes in his own quarters.
Future self.
Gotcha.
And they go back because he takes the Klingon time crystal.
Yes, I meant the episode before then. Sorry, my bad. Okay. Yeah, my bad. I was thinking just last season in general. Sorry, my bad. I said season finale because I thought it was season finale, but yeah, you're right. But yeah, I mean, again, they just showed the Gorn as the running around on the ground and stuff like that. You don't see them like standing up, walking around talking. You know what I'm saying? Like you're like they just don't show you. Even in the season finale, they don't show you. They just show the kids running around, and it's like, man, like what's
Brian?
Going on?
Brian, what you're basically saying is apologies. Thank you. I just thought I'd break into a musical for a minute, but
thanks.
All right, let's do least favorite episode of this season. You know what, Michael? Let's start with you.
Least favorite episode of the season.
And you can't say all of them.
The musical. I'll always agree with your host. The least favorite episode. Boy, I really haven't had a least favorite. Probably the episode 4. I just wrote them down as Prime Directive is the one where they went back and they all lost their memory, and I just didn't get into that one at all. I didn't like it.
Okay,
there you go,
Joe.
Mine is between the same one and Charades. Now, there are parts of Charades I really like because it reminds me of the episode where Spock gets hit by the spores and he starts showing his human side, and that really took me back to that episode because you see Spock laughing, you see him showing love to the one girl, and it brought me back to that. But there were parts of it I just didn't like that kind of fell too much. Like when, I don't know, that scene where Spock is like, oh, like this after he's fooled them. I was like, no, that's a little bit too much. It's a little too over the top. But the Lotus Eaters, the one where they lose their memories, you really don't get into it until the end. And I'll agree with Michael. I'll say episode 4.
All right, Brian.
So I also want to say that I really didn't like Charades because at the end of it, I mean, like he loses the girl. He does all this for the girl and ends up losing the girl. Which, to be honest with you, I didn't like her anyway. I didn't like her in any of the episodes anyway. I want to ship him with Nurse Chapel. That's what I want to do. I want to ship both of them together. So I'm going to say the episode I hated the most was the trial episode. Was episode 2. That was the episode that I didn't like the most. But I do want to say that among the Lotus Eaters, I loved the premise behind it. I loved the idea of we left somebody and they wanted somebody to come back and save them. And it reminded me it was done decently, but it definitely was not done as well as they did it on the Orville. the Orville episode, they did it 20 times better. And I think that's why I really disliked that episode more than I probably should have liked it.
Dennis, may I rebuttal?
Yeah.
Oh, yes,
Okay.
please.
Okay. Brian, you ignorant slut. How can you say that the trial episode wasn't good? Because for a bottle episode, and for those of us who don't know what bottle episodes are, they're money-saving episodes that basically take place in one room.
Right.
I thought the acting on behalf of the what's her name's lawyer was phenomenal. I mean, I just watched it again this morning, and I was just blown away by that. I thought it was a beautiful way of doing what the original Star Trek did in handling current interesting issues in an interesting way. So even though, I turned myself in, was kind of a Sherlockian twist. But overall, I really enjoyed the acting. I love the costumes. My gosh, only because, quick aside, my dad used to design costumes and when he was younger. So I've always been a big fan of fashion in any show that I watch. And the current season of Star Trek is really knocking it out of the park in terms of the uniforms that everybody is wearing all the time. But I just love that trial episode. I really did. I thought it was beautiful acting.
I will tell you that I think that it's like, again, we're looking at this. They've gone past really food. They've gone past really poverty. Like the future holds the ways for them to create all this stuff. They're allowing aliens from every species to, from all walks of the galaxy to come be part of the Federation. Like, I don't know. I really, really felt that.
But isn't that the beauty of Star Trek? Is the inclusiveness of all the different races being
welcomed? Yes, absolutely. That is 100% in. And then all of a sudden, in this world where they accept everybody, they decide that they're going to create an episode where they're not going to allow somebody in, and at the end of the story, of course, they're going to let them come in, just like they've done everybody else.
Then I think the issue with that episode is, again, this was a hit or miss for me. We're dealing with her species and why it's in there, and they hint on it and they talk about some of the things that she went into. But let's really delve into what this race is and why, because it is new. And I love when they make up new stuff that wasn't in the original series or in the future ones, but that means something happened or there's a reason why it never brought up. Maybe they just weren't important at that time. And it scratched the surface of it, but it never delved into the heart of why she is what she is. I love the fact that she turned herself in, and she was the one who wanted to bring it forward. But we needed to know more. Okay, so that's what I'm going to say about that one. I didn't hate it, but it left me longing. Charades, I think it's a clean sweep here. Pissed me off the entire episode, and I'm going to tell you why. And I kind of hinted off screen about this in the back room. Ever since J.J. Abrams rebooted Star Trek, the writers do not understand Leonard Nimoy's Star Trek or the history of him. They took a character that was highly defined, and other than Kirk, he was the most highly defined character, probably even more than Kirk, if I think about it, than any other character. And they have chosen the fact he's a half-breed. He's stuck between two worlds. He's confused. He doesn't know where he's going with himself. Therefore, he's always tugging, and these emotions are coming out, and he can't control them, even when it's artificially done. Wrong. You guys need to go back and watch Star Trek. Think of Journey to Babel, the original series, where his father's on board, his mother's on board. Mother and father both of the different species are together. Spock grew up with them. He chose Kolinar and to go the Vulcan way. He knew exactly what he was doing more than any of the other Vulcans because none of the other Vulcans ever had a choice to make. They were going into the Science Academy. Spock knowingly made and walked down that life path his entire life. And when he has emotions and he is half human, so he's had to keep them in check. And then think about in Babel, she's sitting there and mother's like, your father's going to die. Yes, mother. But I understand that. But logically, I have these ambassadors and everybody, or the ship's under attack on there. Father would understand because it's logical.
Yes.
And that is Spock in of the essence. And the only, he let his emotion, he smiled a few times in the original one, but there was a reason, like the Paradise one, when his emotions ran wild and he could do it. And he was at the end. He made a comment, something like, this was the first time or last time I was ever happy. And where he was able to experience it. The reason those original episodes worked so good was because the writing was so phenomenal. It told a sci-fi story in a way that expressed the character and brought out the true aspect of the character. This, what they have created with, oh my God, I'm a bacon eater now and I can't control my emotions and I'm torn between humans and stuff. That is a caricature of Leonard Nimoy's Spock that was so well done. And if you go back and watch the original show, the more you see even the bad episodes, Spock was the most well-developed character with heart, meaning, and everything he did in his life had purpose, even through the movies. This version of Spock does not have any of that.
Even in the J.J. Abrams, when he's talking to the Vulcan Council, and they're like, you have overcome this because of your, what did they call Amanda? Your, well, he says, I choose the Federation because of this. He's choosing different things. He actually has a choice. The thing I looked at this episode was kind of like the Paradise one, where he gets changed. So he is human. They went over the top of different things. The bacon part, that was a way over the top one. But they're literally, letting him go with his emotions. He's not controlled. He doesn't have the Vulcan choice to keep those in control, and that's why sometimes it was good, and because you can see like, oh wait, this is a guy who really, he's not controlling his emotions, and it's like flooding him. So I was okay with that. But when they were just going way too overboard on everything, and the more they got where he was with the other Vulcans, it almost should have been like he started to come back into his mode as a Vulcan. But it was almost weird, like I said, that part where he fools them, I didn't like it because Spock wouldn't have done that because he fooled them. I almost felt like he should have been tearful because he's like, oh my gosh, this is, I'm not being a Vulcan here. I'm lying to them. I'm doing this. But there were episodes that if you look at this, yes, you're right. Spock is he's more defined in the original series. That's one of the things I like about the character in that, where Kirk is defined already, but the thing I like about the Kirk that they're showing also is they're defining him more, how he's becoming the Kirk he is. But in Charades, I think they had good parts, but they just went too overboard.
But here's the thing that I'm curious about and looking forward to seeing how they will handle it. We already know Spock, if we even go back to the very first episode of the original Star Trek, that he is this cold, logical character, that he kind of was in Discovery when we first see him a little. Now they're letting Spock loose and things like that. But could they have really, for two questions, I guess. One, do you think they're going to wrap it around to, by the end of the season, series, he's going to be closer to what he was at the beginning of Star Trek. And two, could they have really gotten away with writing Spock the entire however many years this goes as this basically pretty cold, logical, only thinking character like Star Trek was? It was a beautiful character in the original one, but you never really saw a huge outpouring of emotion and acting that you are seeing in this version of him. That's my thoughts.
All right.
I think they will wrap it up into the original Spock, because you have to. If you want this to sustain a good legacy like the other Star Treks, you have to wrap this one back up and deliver it. I mean, they better hit the landing, give Pike his crazy finish into the chair, and then Spock and Kirk and everybody has to come on board to where they are as characters in the original series.
So do you think that the inevitable loss of Pike is going to be the trigger that makes Spock? I mean, do you think that's what they're going to end up using?
I think
because I would have thought they would have used Nurse Chapel, but Nurse Chapel's there in the original series.
Yeah,
so
I think they will.
Nothing happens with them. So
I think you're right on track with that, Brian. I think that he will come back around to being fully the logical Spock and everything. I think they're exploring this to give more, even more background to the character, like where he is, to explore more of his background. Because yes, Spock is that way, but even that Lower Decks episode, when Jack comes on and he's talking to him, he's like, "That's not the Spock that I've heard of." But I think they're doing it so that they can explore more stuff with Spock and bring him back around to being this character. So everybody will be like, look at all the things he went through with being away from the Vulcans to come back to be that Spock.
So I'm going to tie this part up, and then it'll lead into the next segue. The whole part, like I'm saying, this really isn't Spock and the way that he thinks. We all know from the original series about T'Pring, and their relationship and how things kind of went or didn't go so well. And Amok Time, of course, was, leading up to that. But we've got this right now where you get to, at least they're exploring the T'Pring, which I thought was good. But now you realize in the original one, Nurse Chapel had feelings for Spock. They weren't really reciprocated back in the original one, and it was never explored because she never acted on him. So we've got that actual history to go with. And on this one, it was that musical episode that did it. She's going off basically to summer camp, right?
Right.
And she goes, "I get to go here for 6 months." Spock would have said, "Well, Christine, congratulations. That is an honor. I look forward to discussing things when you return and picking up where we left off." Something to that effect. Instead of breaking out into song, "I'm your ex. I'm your ex-lover." No, you literally were just with T'Pring, literally right there. And you got a few feelings somehow underneath of that for Nurse Chapel. Dude, you've never been an ex. You maybe kissed her once, which is a no-no, but because they really didn't do it. But you did it. How did you become an ex and feel scorned? You would not feel scorned. You would not have any of these emotions going in through you. Your whole relationship is a farce. This whole thing drives me bonkers because it shouldn't happen. Which leads me into the next segue. The one reason I haven't thoroughly enjoyed this season of Star Trek is because we've got all of these interrelationship happening that don't need to be explored. Spock and Nurse Chapel / T'Pring. We've got your love triangle. It's a K-drama. You've got Captain Pike with his girlfriend,
the lawyer,
ship, right?
Yeah.
And then you've got Leon and Captain Kirk, which we don't really need to do with. Nor did we need to sing about the fact that Carol's pregnant and he's staying away from her. I mean, again, all of these relationships We didn't deal into these in the original Star Trek, which is what made it special, because they were in tiny little bit doses as you started bringing things up. This is just like the writers of this are Veronica Mars and Buffy the Vampire Slayer going,
whoa, don't be bringing Buffy into this.
I have to. Veronica Mars, and these are guys, we're teenagers and we have all of these interrelationship angst issues, and let's just go ahead and do that. Star Trek was brought as a wagon train to the stars. This is supposed to be science fiction, and the writers on this series haven't figured out how to write good sci-fi. The Space Rhapsody episode could have been a phenomenal episode if they knew how to write sci-fi, because the whole premise was stupid and not in any sci-fi. It was just a dumb premise. The music was fine. Everything was fine about certain aspects of it. Now, make it a good story to walk in. But they couldn't do that. So you got all this angsty teenage stuff coming out in every episode about all these relationships. I don't.
Your Honor. I have to ask a rebuttal on this one.
Object.
One of the greatest.
Dennis, you ignorance. I'm sorry.
One of the greatest Star Trek series ever, Deep Space Nine, had relationships about probably the second best captain of all time, Sisko, his girlfriend, Worf and Jadzia Dax, Worf and Ezri Dax, the Doctor and Ezri Dax, what's his Quark, loving Dax, but not being able to. Yeah, see, so
I agree.
Yeah, so
different
show, but they did well into that. So I think they're trying to touch on that. There are parts of it. I'm with Brian. I like Spock and Chapel. I thought them exploring that. I think I want to see how they wrap it up so that they're kind of standoffish to one another. And I think that that's going to come when he decides that he's still going to marry T'Pring. I think that will lead into the Amok Time. They didn't even watch. No, Cyber Dude. That is entirely wrong. But yeah, I think that's where it's going to lead, because and even in what is it, Enterprise and Voyager, they dealt with relationships. I think you can't compare this to the original series, because that was Kirk's wagon train to the stars of women. I mean, I love Kirk, but come on, he's like, he's the captain who's going out there and having every space girl there is. But
he told Carol he would stay away. We found that
he
out.
did. And I like that, because that kind of touches on the, on Wrath of Khan. So I was okay with that. But right. I do think that there are relationships. It's just that we're not used to seeing that with original series characters.
Okay. Anybody else want to chime in why I'm wrong?
Spock seems to be getting some.
Yeah.
And Pike seems to be pretty huggy.
Yeah,
I don't know, man. Every episode.
I mean, I think having basically a love story that only existed on one side to Leon Singh, I think kind of goes with the whole, idea and the way she's been treated because of her lineage to Noonien. I don't foresee there's any way for her to actually find anything, and she's been cut off. And then, she shut herself off. And then the one time she allows herself to be happy, it's something that's so good and so devastating at the same time, and she can't tell anybody about it. You know what I'm saying? Like, she can't mention it to anyone. So, I mean, I think that storyline was, I mean, it was bottled up in itself. And, who knows? Like, at this time, Noonien Singh is still out there. I mean, like, we haven't had Wrath of Khan yet.
So let me ask you this, since I hear what you're saying. I got my finger wagging. So I hear what you're saying. The problem is, why does number one, her name, her whole reasoning invoking, I'm a descendant of it. He was not a well-known, and this goes all the way back to the original series, the space feeding stuff. Nobody knew who he was. Back in then, he was a footnote on one of the 87 despot that wound up going off into space and stuff. The whole premise that she's ridiculed and criticized and looked down on and ostracized her entire life, number one, doesn't make sense. So why even have her do that? Now, if you want to have her be an augment or you want to have her something, explore that whole as a new character without having to rely on the anchor of that, which ties into, why do we need so much James Kirk in this? Kirk is supposed to be off on the Farragut. It's cute that he walks in once in a while, but he's become so integral this season. We don't want Kirk. We want Pike. Let Pike be on there and let Kirk come in there. We get to the point with Sam and stuff like that. The problem I can see once again is the writers going, hey guys, I got my Star Trek compendium. Oh, did you know Nudie soon? Oh, we can add that. Oh my God. Did you know his brother Sam was? Oh, we can add that. And let's see, what else can we tie in? It's literally, they're reading the Star Trek for Dummies book, and they're saying, hey, these are great things that we can drop little anchors in for member berries, and that's what people are going to love.
See,
but honestly, I think that they're going to bring up more with her and her background.
Oh, absolutely. Like Union's going to be on season 3. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know if they're going to bring in Khan.
Yeah, they're going to see. We'll see him.
They hinted that because of her augments, her genetic augments from him and from the lineage, that she has the ability to turn into a monster and become evil. And I think that's something that I'm kind of looking forward to, is how suddenly that's going to appear. And sorry, nudity there.
I think that they could.
YouTube, I didn't see that.
I think they could do that almost in the way that Deep Space Nine did that with their security chief, who stepped in for Odo, and then he becomes part of the Maquis. They could do that. And I think that could add, depending how long they go in seasons. But one of the theories that I heard that was really interesting is that Captain Kirk hears the name Noonien Singh, and he remembers, because why would Captain Kirk allow Khan to go to a planet and rule and do everything when he's tried to kill him, he's tried to take his ship and do these things? It's a neat little theory that he lets him do this because he remembers Leon. And I kind of thought that was a neat way to tie that in. I just don't think, I think they need to understand that, like, Spock didn't know who Noonien Singh was when he saw him. Nobody except the historian on the original episode knew who Khan was. So,
but now you've got Captain Pike, who's there with Kirk, who's now over there, who now knows about it. Which means
Kirk's never been in any episode talking about Khan with Pike. What I'm getting at is,
he was in the episode with Leon about her background, because she
that's right,
that she's been persecuted because of
that happened in the reverse
time episode.
That happened in the time episode that she can't talk about, where you also get introduced to Noonien Singh as a child, which is mind-boggling as well. But for you to say that she doesn't, like, you don't understand how she got all the persecution and everything she did, like man, first of all, she's had it rough, bro. Like first of all, Noonien Singh is like her uncle or whatever, and I mean, like, that's a huge deal. Killed so many people. Absolutely, she gets that. Not only that, but when she tried to get away from it all, her whole family and everybody got killed by Gorn. She's like the only one that survived. Yeah, man. I mean, like, dude, why trying to take
keep the
away
name?
from
Okay,
her?
I hear what you're saying. Why keep the name? Why not just say, "Oh yeah, I'm Leanne Bob. I'm changing my last name to Bob, so nobody will ever know who I am." I mean, seriously.
Because she needs
Anyway,
to be like, look, I
ridiculous.
survived. And you talk about the monster, like she has the monster in her Solof, and you don't know like if we're ever gonna end up seeing it. What if we find out in season 3 that the monster came out and that's why she survived the Gorn attack?
Oh, that'd be interesting.
Whoa,
Almost like the
what now?
almost like the
there's
doctor.
mind blown.
That almost like the doctor in the war episode. That
Yeah.
would be really cool. That would be really cool.
Yep, and the monster comes out, and it's up to Kirk, who was on the episode from season 3 for the eighth episode, having to pull out the phaser on her and having to shoot her in the head. That's what it's going to be, and it's going to be tragic.
But
Wow.
didn't she survive because Star Trek saved her? Starfleet saved her, and not because of anything that she did to escape.
Well, they
found
come
her.
to
She
the
was
planet.
the only one
saved her.
alive, right?
Yeah, they come to the planet and they've saved her because she was the only one who had survived and was alive.
Okay.
But yeah, I say that I think that you can do something to make it where it's you were able to tie it in. But I have to say that her like, oh, my name is this, and the relying too much on everybody's memory of Khan and everything. What they're basically doing is, Mr. Chekhov, I never forget a face.
Right.
They're doing that because Chekhov was never on the episode. So they're doing the same thing with this. So if you love Star Trek, The Wrath of Khan, I personally have to say I can overlook this because I overlooked that's a great saying.
I think it's awesome she has that lineage. I think it's great. I love that she owns it too. Not to mention, I mean, all the stuff that she had to endure just to be on the ship, And again, like now that I'm thinking about it even more, I guarantee that's probably what happened. Like she probably killed the Gorn with her bare hands and was just like stuck on that planet,
Now, this actually transitions to something I wanted to talk about, the court-martial episode.
Oh, my God.
You were saying you said you didn't like that one.
I did.
But here's the thing.
Boy, it suddenly became match game there. You said
you,
but you over there said. Sorry.
The thing about the court-martial episode is it ties back into a lot of the other court-martial episodes. Okay. One, I like how they handled it because it reminded me of when they're trying to court-martial Spock in the cage. It also reminds me of the one where Kirk is being court-martialed for Finney. And it reminds me of the court-martial episode in Next Generation about Data and his being able to be either a person or a piece of an ownership of Star Trek. Now, the thing about it is they've kind of established that augments, and this goes all the way back to the eugenics wars and everything else, that augments are not allowed in the Federation because of the history of what happened with Khan. Here again, they're leaning on the Khan episode. That augments are not allowed in the Federation because of Earth's history with this. So I'm okay with the fact that they're saying that number one is not, her race is not allowed in the Federation. They're not saying that they can't exist, but they're saying they're not allowed in the Federation because of these reasons. So I was okay that they were doing that. And it goes to the fact of the matter of it's about augments. And I love how they tied it in to say, listen, she may be an augment, but Star Trek's own creed of this is why we are the Federation is why she joined. And I thought it was a brilliantly done episode utilizing legal, basically a law and order, or I should say any of the law dramas to get points across. And it ties into all the legal episodes that Star Trek always does. And it's, for me, it was just another one of those episodes that was brilliantly written.
Yeah. Well, I guess we need to go back and address the big elephant in the room, which is the musical. Because so I agree with Michael. He made a comment earlier that I agreed with, and that was I love that they took a chance, that they were bold. I do like when shows do it. Besides the fact that I thought it was a moderately, again, poorly written, because give me all of the original Star Trek had a good core of sci-fi as its basis. This was, I'm going to throw out a terminology, and it's just space garbage, but it sounds cool, and we're going to use that as the basis. But with all of that being said, they missed their mark. So here's what should have happened. This is why I think it was a big miss.
The Klingons shouldn't have danced that way.
Klingons should have danced differently. And instead, the Klingons are coming in, right?
The Klingons should have been mosh pitting.
They made the Klingons look like morons in this, which you don't want the Klingon, yet they pussified them. Let's just make it sound like children now. This was terrible. What they should have done, Klingons are coming in, they're not listening and stuff like that. When
the Klingons are coming, the Klingons are coming.
Correct. But Klingons have music in the history of Star Trek. Think of like death thrash metal opera. That is what Klingon music really is. You guys watch Zoolander, when they did the walk-off, they should have done the sing-off. Have the Klingons get together, and the Federation's like, Spock's like, I'm the X. No, but she doesn't love me. I am scorned. And then the Klingons come on board, and then they're like, with thrash metal, we will destroy the Federation. And then the two of them have to go, and the two crews have to go head to head. That is what they should have done with Klingon death thrash opera, and I guess we could call it Federation.
You think it should have been a battle of the bands? A battle of the bands?
Just like that. They can do some dancing and stuff that's on there, and some singing.
Let's settle this with a song.
Correct.
Yeah, what do you think about the boy band dance scene with the Klingons? Was pretty good, I thought.
Right? Really?
I thought it would have been awesome to have them thrash metaling, mosh pitting, smashing and things, grabbing their glasses,
and they got their Klingon bloodline going.
Ripping off the heads and just like
right? They didn't do any of that. They just left it there, and then the Federation, the Enterprise, does this whole song and dance because we are the crew of the Enterprise. Jazz hands. And I'm just like, really? That's how you're getting up to that magically made up number? Seriously? No. It should have been a head-on head, and oh my God, they missed that opportunity.
But I think that
this is all due to Buffy the Vampire Slayer. This is all due to Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Wait a minute. Once More with Feeling was incredible.
Yeah.
All right, Michael, what'd you say?
I was just going to say that I think that they should use the clip of them dancing every time they meet the Klingons from now on. Why should we be scared of you when you are like this? And then they play that clip of them dancing. I think that would be joyous.
That episode, when you see them running down the hallway doing the little dance number for the finale, I don't know. It took me back to watching West Side Story, them doing all the things. I was like, okay. I will say, Dennis, you're right about. I hated I'm the X. I'm the X. Oh my God, I'm the X. I hated that part. But the rest of the episode, I was just like, this is really bold, and the music was good. What the reason they talked about it, why it happened, is because of what Uhura did. I love that because it ties back into Uhura. Uhura always is singing. I love those parts. I love just the way that they did it. I like again, for me, you can't get enough Kirk. I know, But having Kirk on there and them talking about it, it just really, it was a fun episode. It reminds me of like shore. I've said this to you before, Dennis. There are episodes this season that remind me of Shore Leave, how fun Shore Leave is, how fun Trouble with Tribbles is. It left a lot of fun in the episode and kind of silly sci-fi. And sometimes you need that, because that's why shows like The Orville really do well, because they had silly sci-fi. But I love this one because it was for me, it was done well. It was just an entertainment. It was an entertaining show.
Question though, really quick. When you guys heard that for the first time, when I heard I'm the X, I didn't hear it as EX. I heard it as X, I'm the unknown quantity in this whole scientific thing with Spock's logical mind. That's how I read it. So I thought that's a really cool way to do it. I'm the X, I'm the unknown thing in this whole equation. But
that would have been good
if thinking about her. So I definitely didn't take it.
It would have been. It could have been taken that way, as if he didn't go into the bar, the 10 forward, and then see her, and then go do that song.
Yeah. So, nerd alert. Another thing in that episode that bugged me was the Klingon. The Klingon's coming, sir. It's a Katinga. It's a Katinga. So they went once again. The Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Veronica Mars writers goes, let me pull out my Star Trek technical manual. No, it's a Klingon. Wait, that's a Katinga. No. Katingas do not arrive until Star Trek the Motion Picture, which takes place 5 years after that. No, again, it's the little things that anybody who knows Trek would be like, okay, it's not a Katinga. If they would have said it's a Klingon D7, us nerds would have been like, oh, okay, we can accept that. But you said Katinga over and over. Flash it on the screen. Katinga. Nope. Guys, this is basic fact checking that you screwed up on. It's the little things that us nerds really get bummed about.
I have a question for the group. Which character do you think had the best season?
Oh, that's a good question, Brian.
Yeah, I will go first. I will go first just to let you know, and I've already talked with Solof about this, but I think Erica had the best season, right? Like,
Brian, you're buzzing. You're looking
what?
fuzzy.
All right.
That's better.
Yeah, so I think Erica had the best. Erica Ortegas. I think she had the best season. I think that she finally got to do all the things that she wanted to do, and she ended up basically saving the day at the end.
So, do you mean as a character-wise?
Yeah, as a character, who do you think?
Dennis, you do next too.
Who do you think grew to be a main? Who do you think earned their space as one of the main crew that maybe didn't have it in season 1?
I didn't have it. So I'm going to say the character that I think, although they missed a huge spot, and I'll tell it, Dr. Mbinga, I really loved what he has done in the different aspects of this season, especially the whole Butcher thing. I really like the stuff, and I know they're focusing on Nurse Chapel, but he's really the one in the background that's done it all, with one major exception. The daughter was put into that transporter thing, and they resolved that. Oh, we have to get rid of her, and it was like done. And he's like, okay, and I'm like, what? We need more resolution. Again, that was ADHD of writing today, but
they ended up not getting rid of her.
Yes, but they also haven't discussed or really talked about it much. It was just one of those. That was a really neat thing that they did, and now we're letting it go. And so I hope they bring something back in season 3.
You're like, the fairy tale episode was so bad they got rid of the girl.
It's the Wesley Crusher of this series. When they got rid of Wesley, they did the same thing.
Yeah, the episode that shall not be named. It's just like, let's just erase it. Let's just
the fairy tale episode was so bad. Let's just get rid of the daughter.
I'm kind of
we never have to worry about it again.
The fairy tale episode.
Michael, what about you? Which character did you think?
Let's see. I sounded like Ozzy Osbourne there for me.
Yeah. I crazy train.
I'm liking Uhura. I'm just digging what they're doing with her, and that she's becoming more and more important, and having these interesting relationships with characters, and seeing like just seeing how they're making early introductions. I'm enjoying that, like Uhura with Kirk, and Kirk with Spock, and just the little things where they go into a close up of the handshake because it's such a momentous moment. But I'm liking how they're making little things happen that are such big things. To sound like Monty Python there a little, the tiny things, but the big things.
Exactly. So I was just going to give an update. I had to look. I was just curious after, because it's universally thought, everybody I know hates that episode. Not it was okay. They literally hate it. Yet IMDb, so I had to go and pull out the rating out of curiosity. It got a 6.1 out of 10.
Oh,
which is way higher. Most everybody I talked to puts it down at a 1, 2, and the highest I heard was a 3. So apparently some people liked it. 0. One of the guys I talked to, and do we have
just
to
wipe it out? Okay, just erase it from.
Right.
Okay.
So just curious.
What character I thought grew the most?
Somebody's messing with their mic, and I don't know if
I
that's
would
wrong.
say-
We're looking at all four of us, and no one's touching anything, and yet I'm hearing the same thing too.
Yeah,
It's
I am
weird.
too.
I'm going to say Uhura. I agree. I totally agree with Uhura because they're kind of she transitioned from being a cadet into a character, a full-fledged member of the crew.
Mm-hmm.
And she's growing into being the Uhura of the original series. So I think that she's really the character who grew the most.
And in real life, she's got a beautiful voice. I actually think she was a fantastic pick for the role of Uhura. So, I wouldn't disagree. I thought she was really good. Well, we'll see.
Okay, can I ask everybody's about this elephant in the room? How did you all like Scotty?
It's Scotty.
I mean, it's Scotty. Like
they could have had Mr. Potato Head playing Scotty and I would have gone, it's Scotty.
Yeah, they got a Scottish actor to actually who sounds perfect. Yeah, man. I mean, it couldn't be better. I think this is a weird place to introduce him. Like, I'll tell you that. I thought it was very weird. But absolutely. I mean, hands down, I thought it was great.
Do you think he's going to come on board for next season as the engineer?
I hope so.
I mean, probably if Carol King gets eaten by the Gorn, yeah.
Let Carol King get blown out the air, shaft, because I can't stand that character.
Well, okay, so you musical lovers. So she is a Broadway person, right? I mean, she is known for that, right?
She
same side, not same team, bro. Same side, not same team.
They didn't have her sing. Why did they have her really sing? I mean, of all the people, when you're thinking of who should be singing?
Have you heard her voice?
I was gonna say, with that voice, you wanted her to sing? Holy crap!
It's like Edith Bunker. It's like Edith Bunker singing a song.
It really bumped up the show a half point.
when they did
nails down the chalkboard.
when they did the lower decks crossover, how come they didn't bring Jerry O'Connell over, who's Rebecca Romaine's husband? Like, that would have been the perfect time to have both of them on the same deal. But like, that's her husband. They didn't bring him on.
Oh, they could have, and he could have been sliding.
Yes.
No, I'm hoping that they use this way to introduce Scotty, because I cannot stand that Carol King's character. Yeah. I cannot stand her. Every time she comes on screen, I just want to, like, okay, this character needs to just leave.
Yeah, just like in real life, she's been around a long time.
It's like a long time. It just won't go away.
Yeah. All right.
I want her to take a little baby Gorn, like jump on her back and like infest her face, and then
oh no,
her face, right. Then she's gone.
Or suddenly an alien pops out of her stomach. That would be cool. A little Gorn baby.
Hello, my darling. Hello, my ragtime doll.
What do you guys think about the end of the first episode and the end of the second episode, both ending with Nurse Chapel in space?
Oh.
How did she survive when every other person died on the entire ship? She survived.
She had the shot. She had the COVID shot that let her live.
No. She had the Buffy the Vampire Slayer plot armor.
Yes. Dude,
you're hating on Buffy a lot, dude. You know that's my favorite show of all time.
I do. Yeah, okay, I'll say Veronica Mars. All right, how's that? Is that better?
I'm down with. Veronica Mars, hands down. But yeah, like
she had the new.
Literally, Nurse Chapel survived because ... That's it.
She's the original series. That's why.
Well, both her and the Doctor survived. You know, whatever. Yeah. I don't know, like
the space cuddle.
Yeah, the space cuddle. Yeah, she was cuddled. At the end of both episodes, she was cuddling with somebody in space in both episodes.
Yep. And when you think of the original Nurse Chapel, she looks like she's never even been to space.
Yeah. I think it's a good way to give her a better history, though, because if you think about Nurse Chapel in the original series, she's almost an inconsequential character. She could have been a red shirt.
Yeah.
Well, in the original series, that's why she also doubled as the ship's computer.
Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah. Is that why she came back as? Is that why she came back also as Deanna's mother?
Yeah.
Right. Well, actually, if you think about the character that grew the most out of the two seasons, I would say it's Alex Kapp. You guys are look at blank stares. Who's Alex Kapp? Why, she is the Enterprise computer voice. I think she grew the most out of everybody in this series.
Sad times.
Major Barrett's not with us, so Alex Kapp is taking over. And boy, did she nail her roles. All right, guys. I think what we need to do to kind of wrap this up is let's go around and let's give we always do like CGC rating. So between 0.5 means it just really sucks and you've ripped the cover off and you're throwing it away, and a 10.0, which means it's just absolutely amazing and there is not a thing wrong with this. Give us your grade, and then we'll talk about next season a little bit. But Brian, we'll start with you.
Okay, definitely going to go with a 9.0. And I want to say the reason it's a 9.0 is because they left it on a cliffhanger, which I think is ridiculous. They should not have left it on a cliffhanger because there's no telling when we're going to get season 3. I mean, especially with the writer's strike and all this stuff going on, we may not even get the real true second half of the story after the writer's strike is done, because we may have new people. Like, there's no telling. I don't think there's going to be a continuity between the two episodes once it's done. I think everything else leading up to that was good. Of course, like, you know, I just get like there's so many racial and driven episodes in all TV you see all the time. I think that's another reason why I didn't like the second episode. Again, I love the idea of going back and finding the guy that you left on the planet. It goes back to the whole story. Like, hey, look, if you got sent back to 1920 with an iPhone, how long would it take you to take over the world? You know what I'm saying? And this is kind of really what happened with this guy.
No Wi-Fi.
Say what?
No Wi-Fi, so it wouldn't work too well.
But like I said, the Orville did it better. The Orville did the episode of leaving the guy behind.
Yep.
Did it infinitely better. So all in all, I think they had the really strong episodes. I think the episodes that were really strong were really strong. The episodes that were weak were kind of weak. I don't think that they were like super weak like the fairy tale episode was. It just drug down the whole season. I think in my opinion, I think that the cliffhanger brought down the whole rest of the season, and not being able to find out what's happening. And of course, like finding out that the doctor was the butcher, absolutely incredible. Like probably one of the best plot twists. Like I didn't see it coming. I knew he had the sword and everything, but they're telling the story leading up. Had no idea it was coming. Thought it was great. So 9.0.
Okay. I've been talking with you, Dennis, about this. It's a real roller coaster on this season. It went up really good high points and then really low points and really high points. So the way I looked at the season, there was a lot of things that you could compare to the original Star Trek, like the court-martial episode. I looked at episodes that they kind of parallel a lot of the original series and a lot of the other Star Treks. So they kind of borrowed a lot and hit on member berries, like you said, Dennis. But I liked a lot of the writing, and then I didn't like a lot of the writing. So I would say for me that this is a 7.5 this season.
Ouch.
So it was good, but not good at the same time. So it's middle of the road for me. And the reason being is because the first season for me, I know, Michael, you didn't like the first season, but I liked a lot more of the first season. There was a lot better handling of some of the ways the characters acted. I loved like the engineer in the first season. That was so good. And then they had to bring Carol King. That's probably my least favorite thing that they did in this season. I just hate that character. They didn't have Pike in as much as they did in the first season. I love Captain Kirk. I love that they're giving him more backstory. They're giving him more character building. I like the interaction between Spock and Chapel. It's giving them more of a history. But then I don't like, oh, I'm the X. And it's like, no, you, like Dennis said, you just got with her. You're not the X. You're just, according to Chapel in the first season, she like bounces around from lover to lover. So they set up a lot and it was good, but at the same time, it wasn't good in some of the ways. It's like, guys, this was the mediocre season, and where most Star Treks find themselves in the third season, I felt like the first season they found themselves. And this one, they kind of lost themselves a little bit. And I think that it's a good enough season where you're guaranteed to it. Now, for the cliffhanger episode, I didn't mind at all because with Next Generation, there was a ton of cliffhanger episodes. Best of Both Worlds was a cliffhanger episode. The Time Zero was a cliffhanger episode. In my second favorite Star Trek series, Deep Space Nine, a ton of cliffhanger episodes. So I think the cliffhanger episode, they already knew that there's going to be a season 3. So, yes, it's probably the writer's strike's going to screw it up, but I think that it's okay that there's a cliffhanger episode. I just think they need to get a little bit better on track and remember some of these characters already have a set path, but I'm interested to see where they're going to go with Spock to bring him back around to be the Spock we know and love. How is the relationship between Chapel and Spock going to develop to be the relationship we see? Are they going to give more of Kirk? How is he going to become, he has this big story that I want to see them do, where he's on that planet and that cloud creature comes. I want to see that, and I want to see like somehow that they tie in with the Enterprise. It would be really awesome. So let's see where they go. But for this season, I have to give it a 7.5 to maybe an 8, but I don't think it's as strong as the first season.
All right, Michael?
Oh boy, lot to unwrap here. Cliffhanger. Don't mind cliffhangers. I kind of, I waited 10 years for Dexter to be wrapped up.
I love that.
I don't mind waiting. I'm a patient guy. And I thought they did it well, except for Pike going, what am I going to do for like 45 seconds, And everyone's going like, orders, Captain, hello. So that irked me a little as I was watching it. But no, I thought it was a great episode. I loved it. Overall ratings. Let's see. If we're rating it just on itself, I kind of agree. I think it's around a 7 to 8, with the first season being a 5 or 6. But it's like, what are we comparing it to? Are we comparing it to just the first season? Or are we comparing it to all of Star Trek in every variation and things like that? If I have to compare it to the final season of Picard, I'd have to go, oh, it's much lower, because I thought that was such a home run in every which way that it could be. And I think there's a lot of room for this series to grow in terms of trying to match it up to what Star Trek was when it began. That's a lot tougher, because how do I put this? Weirdly, we're talking about a series that was originally done in 1963. Am I right? 63. So everything is different in terms of life, writing, special effects, and things like that. The original series, although it was brilliant and I loved it and I grew up with it, comparing it to what TV is like now, it's very cold, almost like Spock. So it'll be interesting how they are going to wrap it around to everyone being much more mellow when people nowadays like MTV and action and things like that. So that'll be strange. Also, it'll depend on how many years this thing runs. You can't just wrap it up next year. I'm hoping that they'll have warning, this is our final season, like Picard, supposedly. And, let's wrap it up in a good way. So all those things are going on. I have one question to everybody, although I know that we're wrapping things up. Your biggest nitpick about the season, but that's my wrap up in terms of this. I'd say a solid 7. I'm looking forward to seeing what they're going to do with it. I think it really has improved in terms of characterization and acting and giving them more juicy parts this year. And I'm excited for next year, next season.
All right. Well, it's down to me then, huh? I guess I'm going to have to say, what's that?
No, we can just dull your mic now. And thank you guys for coming. It was no, sorry.
So, from a guy who's a fan of Star Trek, and you might recognize this. This is from the wonderful Jeppy Museum. When we went and visited,
I can't see it. It's not showing.
You can't see anything. It's not showing.
There it is.
Oh, it's
wait,
not showing.
you're wearing sleeves.
Dude, this is in the days of past. Look at that. Just
Dennis?
wanted to say, I got a number of them. I've been to Jeppy's. I loved it. I'll maybe show you a few other pictures and stuff later. But it was all the $1 million comic books. But they had a great Star Trek section there. I had to have my picture taken with it because I love the original series. One thing I loved about the original series is that none of the episodes started with previously on Star Trek, the original series, for a reason. And Michael asked the important question, what do we compare this to? This is a prequel to the TOS. So you have to compare it to what started all of this 57 years ago. It always goes back to the original founding sentiment, the original founding content, and how they developed that content over the years. You know what I'm saying? So that's how I look at it. I am giving this season a 6.0. And like I said, I knew I was going to be the off one out of this group and stuff, because I think this season missed its mark on so many levels. I enjoyed the first season overall better, mainly because each of the episodes were self-contained for the most part. They were quirky, they were fun, we're on a planet, we're this, we're that. There's not all of these big running storylines of feelings and relationships going through everything, which will tie into Michael's question. The quirk that it was on there, I don't need all of that in something like this. This is about the exploration. It's 5-year mission under Pike. This is not Voyager being trapped out there. This is not hanging there on the edge of a wormhole, which was a great freaking series. And it's not built that way. This is built, and the first season showed they tried emulating the original context of the original Star Trek, and that excited me. While I thought they were hit and miss, it was an overall what I would call Star Trek season. This one, they went away from that formula. They got too quirky, as you put it, into dealing with the characters' feelings, their relationships that didn't need to be. I'm not saying you can't explore them, but the Spock and Nurse Chapel didn't need to do. And if you're going to do something. I really want to know more about Pike. He is the star of this. He is the commanding presence on the screen. When he walks on there, other than Black Bolt, he commands every single screen when he walks in. We should be knowing more about him. He should be beaming down to the planets. He should be doing it. And then we could find out a little bit about his relationship, because it's a brand new relationship. I don't want to explore the future USS Enterprise stories on Strange New Worlds. I want to get to know this crew and how it evolves. And they're focusing too much on James Kirk. Get him off the show. While I like what the actor is doing with him, let's bring in new blood. Let's have them do it. So in my mind, they had some really nice highs in this one, some great episodes. And I will argue the finale, the Gorn were never encountered, not just with the Enterprise, but the Federation. Before they encountered it, was it Arena? I think it was Arena.
Yeah, it was Arena.
That was the first time the Federation had encountered it, because that's when the Gorn makes the thing that, unbeknownst, there's this group called the Gorn, and we invaded their colony because it was their territory, which we didn't know. So we had to retroactively go back and say, hey, let's talk to Gorn, because the Gorn were never introduced before Kirk's introduction. So I was going to argue with you at that point.
I wish they had made, instead of the Gorn, because even though I brought up that they didn't mention that it's Kirk who actually mentions he hasn't been there, I wish they had done something with the Tholians, because it would have been interesting.
Yes, that was
Tholians would have been
my point, brother.
Enemy that they could have brought in, and because they had interactions with Tholians beforehand. Yes. The Nausicaans, they could have done that. They could have done something besides the Gorn, because the Gorn is
right.
Yeah, it's just that's just one they threw in there because everybody who doesn't love Arena, seriously, who doesn't love the episode Arena.
Correct. But you had to break your own canon. I mean, the one thing I wanted this show to do is be canonical with everything about the show. And I was like, you don't got a lot of history to choose from because you're all the way at the beginning. And just like Enterprise, I'm hoping they get their legs, because Enterprise, hands down, the best season of Star Trek, of any Star Trek, was season 4 of Enterprise, where they delved into not only that awesome 2-episode Mirror Universe, you got to see the Tholians for the first time in their glory. You got to start getting to the core of what the Federation was. And by then they had already lost 60% of their
Are we going to
audience.
have a Mirror Universe one of these?
Probably. I
I
mean,
would
they
have
did
hoped not.
it in
Honestly,
the first
I would hope
season of
not, but they
Discovery.
will.
I hope not, because the Mirror Universe is being used by it's been in almost every Star Trek except for Voyager. This one, I don't want them doing that because they don't need to. They would have to finish the episode off like, okay, this is something you can't ever talk about again, because why wouldn't Kirk and Spock know? This is where what Dennis is saying, they have to tie back into everything. I don't want them to break canon again to introduce Mirror Universe, because everybody knows about the Mirror Universe.
They did that in Enterprise. That's kind of the point. They already said they had introduced it in Enterprise, so it predates this, but it can never happen again. It's not allowed to be talked about. It's hidden under lock and key. Q clearance only kind of reading, kind of stuff. So it's out. I don't want to have it, because now you're having to break it and do it all over again. We can find a better way to do it.
I want to I just want to say about the whole cliffhanger deal. Like, I mean, obviously I knew there were cliffhangers in Star Trek Next Generation, DS9. Like, absolutely, they were great. But you also had 24 episodes to tide you over. Like, you only got 10 episodes, and I don't want 10% of it me having to wait for the next season to see how it ends.
Great point.
So,
well, that's one of the things that I was watching.
What'd you say, Solof?
I was watching the thing with Michael Rosenbaum, and he's even talking about how Smallville probably wouldn't go 26 episodes like they used to, because the way the TV is now, they try to write in the smaller frame, because they know that the audience, unfortunately, when we all grew up, we love 26 episodes. We love big seasons. I would take
24 episode of Strange New Worlds.
Exactly. Yeah, but now the audience is such, we're on YouTube, but they're instant gratification audiences, that they can't deal with more episodes than 10 episodes to 8 episodes. So now the audience is stuck on this version. So we're going to be stuck with seasons of 10 episodes. And unfortunately, that started with the show Sherlock. 3 episodes, and that was it. So now we're going to have to get used to that. So I agree with you. It'd be interesting to give last season's episode didn't end in a cliffhanger. It tied into something that was coming in before. But I think we're going to have to get used to quick 10 episode series now.
Well, and I think that part of that is going to be budget wise, and that is the highlight of this show, the production value. Although while I disagree with the size of the ship and why they had to do certain things, the production value is beautiful. The sets are stellar. The special effects are great. The outside shots of the ship, beautiful. I mean, there is nothing I can really complain about on the production value of it. So, that's kind of my point.
And Sherlock was 2.5 hour movies.
Yeah, although it's close, I thought Picard was like a movie every single episode.
Yeah,
I really felt like I got my money's worth out of that.
Absolutely. Picard season 3 felt like a 10 episode movie.
Yeah,
it was like a 10-hour movie.
It was a miniseries. It really was.
Yeah.
But it was so well done. Randy goes, this current generation of Star Trek could be coming to an end. Viacom, Paramount does not have a good balance sheet. And yeah, I've been reading up on that. Anything could happen. 26 episodes, far better. Well, remember, the reason why that we used to have those number of episodes was in order to get it to go into syndication.
Yep.
We had to meet that threshold. So even if the show wasn't performing, we're never going to make any money if we don't get that third season or that number of episodes in. Now, with everything else and everybody streaming, it's all out the window. We could get 6 episode seasons and you make do with what you got. So I do have a little hope for next season. I will give it a shot. I will watch it, although I'm going to be honest. Babylon 5 right now, the stuff they're starting to come out with. I watched the Road Home. I loved it. It was way better than I was anticipating. The reboot's kind of cool. I will be curious to see what they do with that. But, that's my thought on that.
I might be in a minority with this one. I just hope they don't do a Battlestar Galactica to that, because I love the original Battlestar, and what they did when they rebooted that one, I still can't handle that series.
Yep. I love both Galacticas, so I'm good with both of them. I hope.
But how could you not like Starbuck, dude? What's up? Like,
I love the original Starbuck.
No, I'm saying in the new, in the reboot, man.
Hey, Dennis.
Yeah.
Do you mind if I?
I'll just leave that one for another time.
Do you mind if I veer for half a second back to something that you had touched on real quick?
Sure.
Working at Jeppy's Entertainment Museum way back when was the greatest privilege of my life. Just being able to work with that collection, to work to introduce people to pop culture, to be with my people, but also to introduce new people into that world. And that picture that you put up next to the Star Trek stuff, I'm not, and Brian can back this up, I'm not the guy who goes, oh, hey, great job, Mike. But at the same time, when I had my chance to go through that museum and go, this is missing from here, this is important, this and that, one of the things that I noticed was the Star Trek was ever so slightly missing. So I did go out and I bought those things that you were standing next to, the pictures of the stamp signed by Shatner and Nimoy, and proudly put those up. And I just love knowing, especially when the Smithsonian and the Library of Congress now own the collection, that my little additions to Jeppy's is carrying onward, hopefully for forever. And I'm proud that I was able to put a little bit more of a Star Trek stamp on that collection.
And you see right in the middle of there, Michael.
Yeah. Yep.
Star Trek #1.
Yep.
Guys, and I hope most of you guys, if you ever had the chance, I hope you got a chance to go up to Baltimore to visit Jeppy's. And when Brian hit me up with you on there, I'm like, oh my God, I have such fond memories of going in there. They had little Battlestar Galactica, Buck Rogers stuff, Wonder Woman, anything you could think of. It was nerd heaven, and it was even for the retailer summit, they had an absolutely fantastic gala that you guys put on there, and it was just heaven walking through and seeing all of this stuff when I was a kid, stuff that predated me, all the stuff that we grew up with. This is just fantastic stuff. So, I'm glad to hear you say that, because that it really was an awesome place. And is it still up and running? Because I haven't been to Baltimore in a few years.
No, unfortunately, 4.5 years ago, Library of Congress came in. Steve donated the entire collection to them. And within 2 weeks, I had to take everything down off the walls, pack it up, and give it to the Library of Congress. So I know, rip me apart. But still,
Michael?
greatest privilege was dealing with that. Yeah.
I'm going to touch on something that you said. What annoyed me the most for this season? What annoyed me the most for this season? What the one that was? Carol.
Carol was number one for me, but number two, very, very close, was that when they blow things up in space. Have you guys seen the movie Gravity?
Yes.
And how devastating a little tiny screw can be to a ship, and yet they blow up these things in space, these space stations with these things and parts, billions of hazards to people going through space at these speeds. And I'm like, no.
Well, and they stop. That's what I don't understand. They stop going outward. Like when there's nothing around and they explode, but all the parts are still there.
Yeah.
But they shouldn't. They should be moving forever. Like
it is not a problem. You guys are way overthinking this because Spock jetted through all of that and went right past Nurse Chapel, who's sitting there, and
but
nothing
by the way,
happened.
was also the only
all the way through
survivor. She was also the only survivor. What's the odds of that?
Yeah.
Right. In the medical thing on the ship where everybody else had died. Yeah, we can truly believe that. I know you guys.
And my third tiny one would be the jazz band in one of the episodes that's playing in the lounge. I'm like, to the crew members, is that an officer who also doubles as the saxophonist and the lead guitarist, on his time off? Or where did they get these people to play
nice,
beautiful jazz?
Yes, exactly.
See, Brett, Brian, that is Starbuck.
I know who Starbuck is. And I like that Mexican pizza there too. I love the Mexican pizza from Taco Bell.
He was anybody's first real man crush, like bro crush. Like
yeah.
He was so cool as a kid. You would want to learn how to play the game and take qubits because he would be the guy smoking a cigar that you would want to sit there and hang out with. Dirk Benedict
like Han
is
Solo
just a great
before
guy.
Han Solo. Yeah.
What's that?
He was Han Solo before Han Solo.
Correct. That is exactly it.
Yes, he was.
He really was. He really was. Awesome stuff. So no, my quirks, like I said, they could get rid of Carol Kane. I'm kind of down with that, really. But other than that, like I said, I think I made my my views kind of known. I may be a little animated, guys, and but at least you know where I'm standing with on that. So with that being said, we got our share, guys. We all got our reviews in. Smash that like and subscribe button. Forward this, share it to you guys. I know most of you will watch this later on. I'm going to do my quick 30-second plug, and then when we're done, we'll close it. And then, guys, hang back. Guys, we're going into post-production right now. We just hit our $90,000 stretch goal, and we announced our $100,000 stretch goal, Budroot Lilith 4-page sequential stories, and it's been over a decade since Bud has done any sequential stories. This was him working at Heroes Con a few weeks ago, and guys, he is going to be selling these are massive 18 by 24 size pages that he's drawing this in, and the original artwork, as soon as it's done, will be going up for sale.
Nice.
On top of it. So t-shirts have been pulled down. We're now printed it, and Andy's also just popped up. He did a great Conan one shot here, which was great. Crom, what's a Crom? So that's available. You guys can check out and read the story right down in here. You can grab any of the cool covers like Budroot's Lilith cover or the homage to the Conan #1.
I got that one.
Watch the video and play the game. My module has been sent for layouts now. I got an old retro 1980s style D&D. Joe knows because he test played it for me. And I've gotten some really good feedback on it, guys. And that has been sent off for layout. So, God, we're just closing in. Everything's finishing off. And then, of course, the parody ad. I did a parody ad. Andy does that in all of his books. So I wrote a parody ad for Axe Me Beer and a little bit of rabbit season, duck season going on here. I think you guys will like that. And you now get the Kor-Drath card, 7x10 Adriana card, the map of the shattered reach of the world I created, and then Lilith and Necronite was just unlocked. So you guys get him and
nice.
Budroot. So anyway, guys, smash that like and subscribe button. Leave your comments down below. We love to hear from you. I love doing these shows with everybody. It is just great. We always have opinions, and I think we'll talk a little bit off screen about a couple of ideas. But anyway, everybody, thanks for joining. Michael, Joe, Brian, Thank you guys for
Thank you.
coming. It's been a blast.
Thanks.
Hopefully we can do it again.
Yeah, I'm glad you wanted to do it, man, for sure.
Yeah,
Well,
if you guys ever want anything else, I do anything sci-fi, anything role-playing, fantasy, all of that kind of stuff. And
well, we'll definitely be back for next season after they do it, because this is always fun. This is fun talking about like minds and Star Trek lovers.
Yep.
We're all Trekkies, so.
Yep, very cool. All right, guys, I'm going to throw the video up, and we will see you in the back room. Thanks, everybody, for joining us.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Hey, guys.
Cause we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution.